Friends, what we are going to discuss today is not limited to the world of films alone. This is a conversation that touches the soul of art, new possibilities in business, and those truths of life that often remain hidden behind the shiny curtain of mainstream media. In this episode of the Joe Rogan podcast, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck not only talk about their new film, The Rip, but also share secrets about the past, present, and future of the film industry that you will never hear in a typical interview. A fun encounter with Hunter S. Thompson, the transformation brought by streaming services, a revolutionary payment model for film crews, the real fear surrounding AI, and the true cost of greatness. These are the topics that turn this discussion into a memorable documentary. So let's divide it into 7 parts and take a closer look at each one. Part 1. The unusual encounter with Hunter S. Thompson. Matt Damon begins his story with a dentist visit. It was a Sunday morning in Brentwood, California, and he was sitting in the clinic of his dentist, Stan. There was no receptionist in the waiting room, just silence. Suddenly, he heard loud screams coming from inside the clinic. Pig _____ pig. Damon wondered what was happening inside. A few moments later, Stan came out wearing a mask and apologized, saying, "Sorry, I'll be with you soon. I've got Hunter in the chair." For a full 15 minutes, Damon continued to hear a storm of curses from Hunter S. Thompson coming from inside. When Thompson finished his treatment and came out, he looked at Damon and said to Stan, "Oh, you're sitting with this guy? He's a ___ assassin." Then Thompson pulled out a jug of clear fluid and told Damon, "You're going to need a sip of this." Damon identified it as ethyl alcohol or moonshine, which Thompson was drinking at 10 in the morning. Damon's entire interaction with Thompson lasted only 7 minutes, but he calls it the best 7 minutes of his life. This incident perfectly captures Thompson's unpredictable, wild genius, drinking moonshine at 10 a.m., screaming in a dentist's office, and calling a stranger his assassin. My commentary. This short incident brings Thompson's legendary and unpredictable personality to life. Imagine sitting at a dentist's office while your childhood literary hero is screaming profanity from the next room. In today's scripted celebrity culture, such raw and real moments have even greater value. This story reminds us that the best moments in life are never planned. Part 2. The storm of streaming in the film industry. Damon and Affleck discuss the streaming revolution in detail. They explain that in the 1990s, when they were starting out, there was a huge divide between television and movies. George Clooney even gave up money to leave the TV show so he could move into films because television was considered inferior. Today, streaming services have changed everything. Netflix and Amazon Prime have produced shows like Succession, Ozark, and Adolescence that are better than many films. While talking about Adolescence, they mentioned that each episode was shot in a single take, an entire hour without a cut. The problem is that the theater experience has become expensive. For a full family, it can cost over $100, with popcorn and drinks costing extra. That's why people prefer watching comfortably at home. Studios must spend double the film's budget on marketing for theatrical releases, and 50% of ticket sales go to theaters. Because of this, studios avoid risky projects and focus only on sequels, superhero films, and safe bets. Affleck also talks about algorithmic filmmaking. Streaming platforms now use data. Put action in the first 5 minutes to keep people engaged. Repeat the plot 3 or 4 times in dialogue because people are on their phones. This is dangerous for art. If Taxi Driver, 1976, were released today, people would switch it off within 10 minutes. My commentary. This is a battle with no clear winner. Streaming has democratized storytelling and given new ideas a chance. But the social magic of movie theaters, the shared experience, is at risk. Watching Oppenheimer in IMAX is a social event. The future may be a hybrid model. Big spectacle films in theaters and experimental stories on streaming. The real danger is algorithmic thinking, which could trap art inside rigid formulas. Part 3. The Rip and a revolutionary profit-sharing model. Damon and Affleck explain the profit-sharing model they designed for The Rip through their production company. They made a deal with Netflix that if the film succeeds, the entire crew receives bonuses. The model had 5 success levels. If the film hit basic viewership targets, crew members received a percentage above their base pay. The top level was almost impossible, something like K-pop Demon Hunters, which was watched by nearly every Netflix subscriber. They say this model matters for 2 reasons. Fairness. Traditionally, only above-the-line people, stars, directors, producers, benefit from success, while the crew receives fixed pay. Quality. When every crew member knows they will benefit from success, they put in extra effort. They give the example of the film Air, where an assistant prop master found Phil Knight's original 1970s waffle iron shoe design on eBay. That extra effort added priceless authenticity. Affleck jokes, "We're communists, Joe," but explains that it's just good business. An invested team makes a better product. My commentary. This model isn't charity, it's smart business. When electricians and carpenters feel they have a stake in the film, they give everything they have. That extra effort is what turns a good film into a great one. If this model succeeds, it could become a new industry standard. Part 4. The magic of acting that AI cannot replicate. They talk about the magic or hypnosis of acting. Those rare moments when a performance feels so real that you forget you are watching actors. They mention scenes with actors like Ethan Hawke and Kevin Bacon, where everything feels natural and effortless, and the audience becomes emotionally involved without even realizing it. They explain that true acting is not about delivering lines perfectly. It is about being fully present in the moment and reacting honestly. In one scene from The Rip, Affleck asks Damon something, but Damon does not reply at all. The silence creates real tension. Affleck genuinely feels ignored and frustrated, and in that moment, he blurts out a line that was never written in the script. "I would have never done this to you." That line worked because it came from real emotion, not planning. It was not acting, it was reacting. They also discussed The Smashing Machine, where Dwayne Johnson used deeply personal memories. He mixed emotions from his father's addiction and his mother's cancer diagnosis. In one hospital scene, covering his head with a sheet came directly from a real experience with his mother. That moment could not have been written by a machine. They explained that AI can imitate faces, voices, and even dialogue, but it cannot transform lived pain, memory, and emotion into performance. Great acting comes from listening, not speaking. In real life, you never prepare your next line. You simply respond. My commentary. This part makes it clear that acting is not a technical skill alone. It is emotional honesty. AI can copy behavior, but it cannot feel regret, fear, or love. The magic of acting comes from being human, and that is something no algorithm can replace. Part 5. AI in filmmaking. What is the real threat? They then shift the discussion toward AI and its role in filmmaking. They say that scripts written by AI tools often feel weak and predictable. These scripts usually follow averages and patterns because AI is trained on existing material rather than real-life experience. However, they make it clear that AI itself is not their biggest fear. The real danger is algorithm-driven filmmaking. Streaming platforms now rely heavily on data and formulas. Action must happen in the first 5 minutes. The story must be repeated several times in dialogue. Scenes are designed to hold attention for distracted viewers. This kind of thinking slowly kills creativity. Films that take time to build atmosphere and character would never survive today. Movies like Taxi Driver or The Deer Hunter would not even get approved under these rules. Studios use data as protection. Instead of taking creative risks, they hide behind numbers and play it safe. Over time, this turns art into content and storytelling into calculation. My commentary. The real threat is not machines replacing artists. It is fear replacing courage. When creativity is controlled by formulas, originality dies. Great films are not made by statistics. They are made by people willing to take risks. Part 6. The hidden burden of greatness. Using MMA fighters as an example, they talk about the real cost of greatness. A fighter's prime career often lasts less than a decade. During those years, their life is consumed by brutal training camps, injuries, pain, and constant pressure. They mention Matt Hughes, who once said after losing his championship belt, "It's a relief." Being a champion means everyone is chasing you. The fear of losing never goes away. They also discuss fighters like John Jones, Mike Tyson, and Vitor Belfort. The same obsession that takes someone to the top often damages their personal life. Relationships suffer. Peace disappears. Winning gives a short high, but the pressure to defend that position never ends. Greatness demands sacrifice, and sometimes the price is your own happiness. My commentary. This lesson is not limited to sports. Extreme success in any field often requires obsession. You gain recognition, but you lose balance. Whether that trade is worth it is something only the individual can answer. Part 7. Cancel culture, the death of nuance and art's response. They end by talking about cancel culture and how nuance is disappearing from society. Everything is reduced to extremes, right or wrong, hero or villain. One mistake becomes a permanent label. They argue that art exists to fight this mindset. Shows like The Sopranos are used as examples. Tony Soprano is a criminal, yet the audience understands his pain and complexity. Art forces us to sit with uncomfortable truths. They also mention Wake Up Dead Man, Knives Out 3, which focuses on themes of grace and forgiveness. Art does not exist to judge, it exists to make us think. Art should confuse us, challenge us, and show us that human beings are complicated. My commentary. Cancel culture removes context, but art restores it. Social media turns people into judges, while storytelling turns us into observers. When we learn to understand flawed characters, we slowly learn to understand flawed humans. Goodbye, friends.